Okay, the samosas are being sold back there by lots of school kids that have come together, including the Basis Charter School Impact Club. And then the other piece is, I think, in addition to what we heard from Captain Thomas and Dr. McNary, I think you heard the council member Harris talk about numbers. Okay, so there will be a quiz at the end. He talked about the population in 2021, percentage of Army members. So we have a dozen kids still here. Okay, so please pay attention, and then it's going to get even harder as Captain Thomas comes up here. Okay, sorry, Captain Jones.
Wait, before, one other quick I forgot to mention. Of the total number of military, but if you break down by gender, 81% are male, 19% are female.
Wow.
I'm overrepresenting right now.
So I think we have good coverage, right? Out of 4, one of them.
25%?
25%.
Overrepresentation.
Yeah, we are exceeding the national average. Okay, so let's go to the next one, please. Okay, so honorable guest number 4, Captain Jim Jones. This time I'm getting the last name right. I'm getting mixed up with both the friends. Okay, so very impressive picture up there. But I guess donuts took over.
Yeah, the samosas.
Yeah, I checked with him and he said, no, I've had lots of samosas, so I won't fit into my dress. But that's all right. I think Jim pointed out that you have that, the pin there, right? So that is still with you. So, quick introduction. I picked a few things that I got from him. He joined the Navy upon completion of high school and entered the Navy's nuclear power program. And Councilmember Harris talked about the 2 tracks, right? One is the ROTC or West Point kind of track. The other one is enlisted. Jim started in that other one. Okay, and then you can see where he really, went from there. So he advanced to the rank of chief, and then was selected to become an officer in the same program. He served in the Navy for 38 years. Spending 2 years in school, 21 years on aircraft carriers, including Carl Vinson. And I've seen the mock-up. How many jets could fit on the?
So we used to carry 95.
95 jets. Whoa.
They don't carry as many now because back then we had 8 different airframes, so different types of planes, right? Nowadays they only have 3, so they don't need to carry as much because they do double missions and stuff. So they carry about 65. So we have more people because we have more planes, so they figured out it was better to have fewer airframes, less maintenance people, and it just worked out a lot better.
Yeah. 13 years repairing submarines, and I guess they were nuclear-powered submarines.
Yes.
Yeah. And then 2 years inspecting non-nuclear ship engineering plants, and we lived in Washington State, close to Banker or Olympia, and I have heard stories where when the work was being done on the U.S. submarines, they would make sure that was being done, sort of undercover, because otherwise the Russian satellites and others, right, the adversary satellites would be keeping an eye on what's happening in that space. He's been married to his beautiful wife Norma.
For a long time, 36 years, I think.
36 years, all right.
So since I didn't give them that information, I have a son and daughter that both live in Virginia now. My son is with 2 grandchildren, 2 daughters, and my daughter still hasn't found the right person yet, but she keeps looking. So maybe one. It's great to go out there and spend time with them. In fact, I need to go out there for a few weeks.
So you think Norma will join us for lunch?
I'll be right home.
Okay, so that's Captain Jim Jones for us. Let's give him an applause.
I don't move as quick as these other guys. If you stay in a long time and you work on submarines where there's not a lot of space, you're like bending a lot. It does things to your body that shouldn't be done, but I work through it. So I have a lot different story than what you've heard so far. First of all, my love for the country is just so high. So I was not born in this country. So I was born in Germany, and I was orphaned at birth. So thankfully, a couple Americans came around and decided they needed a child, and they adopted me from Germany and brought me over here. So the reason that means a lot to me is it set up the way I dealt with my life. Because I felt like I was given away once. This is gonna sound weird, but I was so worried that my parents were gonna give me away, that I did everything I could to be absolute best I could be at everything I did, so they wouldn't tell me to get out or give me away. And I know it wasn't gonna happen, but it's just in your head. So I think that gave me the force to go on. And then when I got in the Navy, so being enlisted first, in my opinion, is a great thing. So does everybody understand the difference between enlisted and an officer? So the enlisted are the ones that do all the work, the officers tell you to. Right? That's how it does, right? So they're the ones that really know how to do the stuff, and the officers, you know, they know what we tell them, right? So anyway, so it has to be that way, and it works out great. So I learned a lot doing that, because I was enlisted for almost 10 years, so I learned quite a bit. And so then I didn't even want to put in for the officer program. I thought, yeah, I don't think I'm good enough. I had so many officers tell me that I needed to be an officer. And to tell you the truth, there were so many officers that I worked for that I didn't like. I didn't like the way they worked. I said, well, let me just be that guy, and then I don't have to listen to that guy, right? So I put in for the officer program, got selected the first time. And I stayed in the power program, and I went on to, so as far as wars go, I think, well, it's the Cold War, which was, for the Navy, that was a big war for us. Even though it's a Cold War, we weren't firing, but we were being followed by Russians everywhere. They would follow us, they would fly over us. It was just stressful because we didn't know what was gonna happen or what could happen. So that was something else. So you talk about, everybody see Top Gun?
Yes.
And you saw Top Gun Maverick probably, right? So, you saw both?
Yeah.
So the first Top Gun, I was on the ship when they filmed that. That was filmed on the Carl Vinson. And Tom Cruise is what they saw, right? So that was a lot of fun. So being on the carrier, you get to see lots of things, do lots of things. Anytime we deployed, we'd go by countries and we would stop and we would bring their dignitaries out to the ship. And I remember us bringing Indian, when we were by India, we brought, we didn't get the Prime Minister, but we got some of their Navy and some other folks that came out. And what we'll do is we'll do an air show. So they'll fly the planes off, right? And they'll go around, they'll drop bombs and they'll do different things, and they're all like, ooh, and no, this is cool, just like in Top Gun, right? So that stuff is so cool. I mean, I did 21 years on it, right? So I'm out at sea doing this every day for a long time. And I'd go out there right now and watch that. In my last tour, I spent every night, I go up to the bridge and I'd watch the fly-offs, because they're so cool. So much different, because you get the flames coming out the back of the jets and stuff. But that's the most dangerous place in the world to work, is on that flight deck. And the people, you look at it, all these kids, the average age of a person working on a flight deck is 19. So these people at 18, 19 years old are given this huge responsibility to make sure everything's flowing right on that flight deck. And that's awesome. We don't get that. At 19 years old, you know, you're over here working at a store or something, they're not gonna give you the opportunity to do things like that. So the military, what they do that's amazing is they train you very well, in most cases, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And they allow you to do the work. They train you, and then they allow you to do the work. Now, if you mess it up, they take you back to training again, right? But that's important, and that brings you together. So we talk about camaraderie a lot. So the big thing is when you're in the military, you're with these people, especially in the Navy, right? I'm on a ship, you're with them 24/7. You can't get rid of them no matter what, right? So you get these really tight bonds. I still talk to people from my first ship. So, a guy called me the other day, I hadn't talked to him in 38 years. He calls me up, and we talk, and it was like we never left each other. It's just a strange thing. It's just, you always have that bond with the people in the military. So I don't think you get it that close anywhere else. So then I got into working with submarines. Oh, wait a minute, Top Gun Maverick, that was filmed on my ship too, but I wasn't there. I was already out of the Navy, but I was on that ship at one time. So the submarines, what's interesting about the submarines is they're small. They pack as much stuff as they possibly can in a submarine, because they need all the technology things in there. If there's a little cubby hole somewhere, they'll add some maintenance activity to make them a locker. Hey, put a locker here. So the hard thing about working on them as doing maintenance is let's say this motor in the back is broken, you gotta pull the motor in front of that motor out to get to the motor in the back and then bring it out. So it's really hard, and the people that we call the rigging, or where they take a chain fall, I don't know if you're familiar with that term, but block and tackle or something, and they're trying to hook up this thing and then bring it out of these spaces that are really tight. Those guys are amazing, because I don't know how they get it done, but it's just so cool. And my point to that is, everyone in the military, I don't care what their job is, it's important. Okay, and you can't do enough to thank them every time you see them. I go out of my way to thank everyone for what they do. Even out here, if I walk through a building and there's somebody sweeping the floor, I thank them for what they're doing, because it needs to be done. And my father taught me when I was really young that if a job's worth doing, it's worth doing right. You know, so I'm blessed in my upbringing, and I think it made me a great Navy man, sailor. But the other thing is you always got to take care of your people, and that's important as an officer, to make sure that your people get what they need to do their job, and that you're sensitive to what they've got going on outside of the Navy, so that you understand why they may be acting the way they're acting. And when I first came in the Navy in the 70s, we had a lot of problems with racial riots and stuff. It was just a time in the world, and it was terrible. By the time I got out of the Navy, nobody would ever think of that. I mean, everybody was treated the same. Everybody was getting promoted based on their ability to do the next job. It wasn't about what color they were or anything like that. And I thought that we just knocked all that out. And but anyway, I'd do it again if they asked me to. I kind of probably, I thought about it a long time. Man, if I went to college right away and maybe I would have got to have my own submarine or my own carrier, because I was limited that I had to do everything I did had to be nuclear power, and that's because they've got the officers that go to the college and stuff and come by and do those jobs. They have a lot of time in between, and they wanted to make sure they had somebody that really knew what they were doing in the program to make sure that they didn't make a mistake. So this nation has never had a nuclear power incident in the Navy, ever. And I don't think we ever will. That's because of the training. So I have to mention this. So I served when I was on, let me get the ship right. Oh, when I was on Eisenhower. And we were deployed for OIF and OEF, which is Afghanistan and Iraq, because we could fly both places from the carrier, so we did both. My executive officer on the ship, which is the number 2 guy on the ship, was from India. He was Indian. His name was Tushar Timbe, and he was a great guy. We talked all the time. I loved the guy. And unfortunately, when he got his carrier as a CO, he passed away. He was out running, and he just dropped dead. We don't know what happened. But he had a beautiful family, and he was just a great person. So I'll never forget him. I like this group. I'm glad you're doing this. What's always impressed me, and I'm probably not seeing enough, but I feel that in India, the country of India, the people that come over here from India, they're so focused and they still want to do things, right? They want to get things done. I mean, we've got so many dentists, doctors. I mean, that's what I see for a lot of the Indians. I don't see, or people from India don't. If I'm saying something wrong, it's not intentional, okay? I'm not very politically correct. I just say what I feel, but I love people, and one thing I did find in my life is, so everyone in this world is good at something. It may not be what they're doing, but they're good at something. And if they're not doing good, you find out what they're good at and you lead them in that direction, and the world will be a better place. So thank you very much. Greatest time of my life. Like I said, if I could do it again, I would. And service to country, community, culture, your culture is so important. So important to be part of something bigger than yourself. Thank you.
Wow, that was an uplifting one. Yeah. So with that, let's go to the next one.